A single mother marries a wealthy man to provide a better life for her daughter, but as soon as they arrive at the man's estate, mysterious occurrences begin to haunt them. In a luxurious study, a wealthy man named Carl logs into a dating site and screens through videos of women. He instantly stops upon seeing a beautiful Russian woman named Nina. Enamored, he finishes watching the whole clip as the woman tells about herself and her daughter, Dasha. She ends her introduction hoping a man can accept and love them both. Meanwhile, in a dreary neighborhood in Livny, a junkie named Anatoly bangs the entrance door of an apartment building. Nina slowly approaches him and expresses her disappointment upon seeing how disoriented the man is. Anatoly insists on seeing his daughter, but the mother declines his request, so the man asks to accept the bread he bought for Dasha. The father barges in once Nina opens the door, so the mother frantically blocks him, but Anatoly slaps him and threatens to end her life. Nina pushes him out with all her might and locks the door before running upstairs. Dasha asks her mom why her father hates them, so Nina explains that Anatoly has been fighting his own battles. The mother reassures her child by promising that things will improve. Afterward, she receives an endearing message from Carl, apologizing if he's moving quickly and urging her to call him. Simultaneously, Dasha brushes her teeth and disappointedly sighs upon seeing no water from the faucet. Sometime after, Nina packs up her belongings for their flight to America to marry Carl. Her sister warns her about the man, especially since he hasn't met the family yet. Nina defends her fiance by telling them his dislike of riding planes. Seeing her determined daughter, Nina's mother hugs her and instructs her to call her uncle. Hours later, Nina and Dasha leave the country and their plane lands in America. Soon, they see two older men waiting for them. One has a card with their name, while the other has a bouquet of lilies, Nina's favorite flower. Carl stares at them while Hagen, the house steward, avoids eye contact. In the car, Nina notices Hagen glancing at them through the mirror, so she asks about him. Her fiancé explains that the man was adopted by his father and assigned as a house steward. They enter the estate, and Dasha admires the size of the property, comparing it to a castle. Carl explains that all necessities are stocked in the mansion during winter since their location is isolated. Dasha curiously inquires about Hagen, so Carl explains that he prefers to live alone and lives in the barn down the road. Carl escorts them inside and introduces Maria, their maid. She warmly welcomes them, especially Dasha, since the woman doesn't have a child. Carl carries their luggage to their room, explaining that he has already instructed Maria to buy all their clothes. They head upstairs and see many rooms. Nina asks about the room on the leftmost side, and Carl informs them that it's Maria's exclusive part of the house. The man presents Dasha's room, and the girl marvels at it, especially the abundant water in the faucet. Simultaneously, Carl escorts Nina to their room, and she expresses disappointment for losing the chance to introduce her fiancé to her family in person. The man repeats that flying means putting his life in the hands of another person, which is terrifying for him. Concurrently, Dasha looks for her mom and discovers another kid's room. Meanwhile, Carl gives Nina a mobile phone to contact her family. On the other hand, a dog named Rain approaches Dasha, and she hides in the closet, where she sees a woman behind her. She frantically screams, and her parents rush to her. Carl sends Rain away while Nina comforts her daughter. Instead of talking about the dog, Dasha tells her mom that there's a woman in the closet. So Nina scans the area but only sees a mannequin in a wedding dress. Carl informs them that it's his ex-wife's wedding dress. The mother asks what room they are in, and her fiancé says it's his son's room. Nina accusingly asks to keep it a secret, but Carl answers that he's not ready to discuss Tyler's demise. That evening, the man tells them that his son had a genetic disease, so his organs were already failing on the day he was born. The events took a toll on him and his ex-wife, so she ran away without saying anything. The power suddenly fluctuates, and rumblings are heard, so Carl informs them that this is a common occurrence and the noise is due to the old generator. Soon, Nina encourages Dasha to embrace the changes for the better, but the girl reiterates that the house is haunted. The mom dismisses her concern and kisses her goodnight. Late that night, Nina called her mom for some updates. Afterward, the husband initiates intimacy, which the woman grants. Unbeknownst to them, Maria sees them through the open door, making her face twist in distaste. The following day, the wedding is held, and Carl introduces his wife to his old friend Buchanan, his cousin Claire, and his nephew Keller, a future surgeon he's sponsoring. Afterward, Olga, Carl's close friend, delivers a congratulatory speech, especially for finding Nina and Dasha after what happened with Tyler. At the after-party, Cranston, Carl's associate in the plastic surgery clinic, is introduced to the bride. Yuri, Nina's uncle, grabs this chance to criticize Carl for the passing of one of the patients. The group defends the retired plastic surgeon by explaining that the patient was given a depressant. Then she took a stimulant which caused the heart to slow down, followed by a sudden increase in speed, causing the organ to fail. Amidst the adults' discussion, Dasha notices another girl gesturing to her threateningly, but she dismisses it. Tension brews, so Yuri bids goodbye, declaring he'll visit often. Nina persuades him to stay for the night, but her uncle refuses, explaining that he doesn't like to get caught in a blizzard. Afterward, Nina prepares herself for their first night as husband and wife. However, she catches Carl inhaling some powder in the restroom. She openly expresses her disappointment in him, especially as she promised her daughter things would change, so she warns her husband never to show his ugly side to Dasha. Meanwhile, a truck suddenly bumps into Yuri's car. It crashes into a tree and Hagen burns him alive. The following day, the new mistress finds Maria cursing as she calls for Hagen. Nina volunteers to help her fix the vintage pulley lamp while explaining that her father was a mechanic. She successfully does the job and boasts about her father saying that he only needed a hammer to survive. Then she asks Maria about Carl's secret hobby, and the maid explains that it has been the master's coping mechanism. That evening, they discover that Dasha has a fever. Carl expresses disappointment since he plans to ride horses with his family tomorrow, so the maid tells the couple to spend time together while she takes care of the girl. In the barn the next day, Carl cuts a part of the saddle as he angrily yells at someone. Meanwhile, Maria prepares Dasha's tea and adds medicine to it. The girl peeks out the window and sees her parents riding horses, with her mom clueless that her saddle is damaged. While drinking the tea, the power fluctuates, and the door slowly opens despite having no one behind them. Simultaneously, Carl asks Nina to prove something to him. In the mansion, a female ghost flies toward Dasha while screaming. Concurrently, the husband hits Nina's horse, causing it to sprint. At the same time, Dasha runs out of the house, and her mom's saddle snaps. Nina flies off the stallion and hits a spiky tree bark before landing on the ground. Carl finds her unconscious, so he grabs a stone and aims to hit his wife. However, he spots Dasha, who faints and falls on the frozen lake. Carl frantically rescues her, awakening Nina, who runs to her child. The mother and Maria dry and warm the girl up since they're stuck in the blizzard. When things settle down, Nina asks her daughter about the accident, so Dasha confesses that she saw a female ghost who warns them about Carl. The mother dismisses her daughter and heads to the study, where she catches her husband doing his repulsive hobby. She lets the matter go due to his effort to save her daughter. Then she confronts him about the horse accident, and Carl becomes defensive. A knock interrupts them, and the cop informs them about Yuri's tragic fate. Nina mourns for her uncle and absent-mindedly cooks for her husband until she hears Rain's growls behind her. She grabs meat from the pan and throws it out of the kitchen, which the dog follows. However, she notices a warning written on the window and sees Hagen staring at her from outside, so Nina goes to the barn. She sees her saddle and discovers that it's deliberately slashed. Hagen arrives, and the mistress uses the soap as an excuse to stay and converse with the man. Then she confirms if the steward was the one who wrote the note on the window, and she affirms it by his reaction. She probes if they're in danger, but Hagen drops the bowl and leaves. That evening, Carl enters Dasha's room and sits on the bed all night. Nina wakes up at dawn the following day and discovers she's alone. She goes out to check on her daughter and notices a commotion inside Maria's room. Hours later, Nina remains contemplative about matters. Dasha requests to speak with her grandma, but her mother finds out that the phone services are cut, so she looks for her husband. She finds him outside Maria's door while murmuring something, but when she inquires about the maid, Carl tells her that the woman is sick. Nina asks him about her phone service and discovers how the man dislikes her frequent calls. Though Carl shows her the only house phone in the study, she chooses not to use it. Sensing her discomfort, the husband requests her to cook dinner. While cooking, Dasha arrives, telling her mom that her stepfather entered her room last night and touched her. Nina shakes in fear, but when she inquires more about this, the girl explains that it is similar to petting a dog on the head. Therefore, she instructs her daughter to stay away from them tonight since she'll talk about upsetting matters with her husband. Dasha spends the afternoon outside and convinces Hagen to play with her. She discovers the steward was close with Tyler, who liked watching vintage films. Meanwhile, the couple's dinner begins, and the power fluctuates again. Nina gently asks Carl's whereabouts earlier, and the husband explains he checked the generator, but the wife mentions what her daughter told her. The stepfather defends that he only checked Dash's temperature, but the mother is dissatisfied with the answer. Meanwhile, Hagen and the girl watch Tyler's favorite film. On the other hand, Carl admits that his current wife has been making things difficult for him, which confuses Nina. Then he suddenly tells a survival story and asks the woman if she can take others' lives and eat them for survival and Dasha's safety. Upon realizing how crazy he is, the mother declares they're leaving. Meanwhile, Maria and Hagen stand before the sleeping Dasha with complicated expressions. In the dining room, Nina reiterates they're leaving, so her husband hits her with a vase on the head. Afterward, Maria enters the study where Carl sulks. The maid insults Nina and mocks her master for being enamored by her beauty. On the other hand, the wife wakes up in the cellar shaking profusely due to the cold. She begs and yells for Carl to release her, but everything is ignored. Dasha approaches her stepdad and pleads to let her mom go in exchange for anything he wants. Maria drags the sobbing child away while Nina scans the cellar for anything she can use to avoid freezing to death. She sees a picture of Carl and his family, some boots, and the ex-wife's wedding gown. The woman remains trembling in the cold, but the generator starts as the power fluctuates, so Nina touches the device to warm herself. She notices a newly patched part of the cellar wall. She grabs a crowbar and relentlessly hits the spot until a hole appears. She immediately crawls into it and discovers a female skeleton. Though shocked by the scene, Nina's determination to save her daughter increases. The passage brings her to a hidden floor door where Rain stays. The woman moves cautiously, but the pet greets her affectionately. Moments later, Nina threatens Carl with a shotgun to return her daughter, but the man remains unaffected. Then he provokes his wife to pull the trigger, which the wife fails to do. The situation is reversed as the man grabs the weapon and shoots both of her hands. Weeks later, Nina wakes up in her room with Maria, who's fixing her IV. Carl arrives with a bouquet of lilies as he explains that spring is coming, and a depressant is consistently given to her. The mother asks about her daughter's welfare, and Carl reassures her that she's okay. Then he offers Nina another chance, which she accepts. Carl pushes her wheelchair since she's immobile due to the medicine. They proceed to Maria's room, where Nina sees her unconscious daughter on an operation table. The husband explains that Dasha exists for her son Tyler. Nina is frozen in shock upon seeing Carl's son, who's alive. The wealthy man explains that Tyler needs a stem cell treatment and a new heart and lungs. He adds that despite having money, there's no progress, and he doesn't like to find a random donor from the black market. Fortunately, with his connections in Russia, they could test children for a donor match. However, since he's acknowledged Nina's motherly love, he convinces her to stand as Tyler's mom because he's old and will soon be gone. To make the offer more tempting, he tells the woman that all his properties will be hers. Unbeknownst to them, Maria is eavesdropping, and upon hearing Carl's statements, she interrupts to inform him that the guests have arrived for the operation. The master instructs the maid to sedate Nina heavily, so Maria pushes her recklessly into the room and self-proclaims ownership of Carl's properties, since she's the one who's remained loyal to the family. The maid locks Rain in a room, and Nina sobs as her body succumbs to the medicine. Before she faints, Hagen arrives and removes her drip. She prompts the man to save Dasha, and the steward sneaks the girl into his car as he drives away. Upon seeing her child leaving the mansion, Nina sighs in relief, but the daughter heads out of the car, determined to rescue her mom. Hagen chases her, but they're intercepted by Carl, who has the steward at gunpoint. The stepfather reveals that Hagen ended Yuri's life, so the girl backs away. The master shoots Hagen just as his guests arrive. Maria drags the girl back to the mansion, and the newcomers remain indifferent to the scene. Olga introduces Dr. Gorbinsky, the donor surgeon, and soon they are all in the operating room with Tyler and Dasha on the surgery tables. With limited mobility, Nina does her best to ride the elevator and cross to the study. On the other hand, Olga notices something wrong with Tyler's x-rays, so Carl instructs her to get the right ones in his study. Simultaneously, Nina successfully calls 911, but can only weakly utter that her daughter is in danger. She collapses as the medicine kicks in, and in her blurry vision, a woman enters the study. Carl's powder jar breaks before her, and Nina inhales the stimulant to contradict the depressant. Olga barges into the room, and like a rabid dog, Nina attacks her. Upon hearing Olga's screams, Carl and the others go to the study, where they see her body. Carl notices the broken stimulant jar, which explains how his wife managed to move. Meanwhile, Nina runs to the storage room to find weapons. She takes a hammer and a screwdriver and wraps them in both hands with a bandage. Carl and the gang aim to end Nina, but Keller comments to return Dasha, so his uncle fiercely scolds him. On the other hand, Dr. Gorbinsky grows anxious and excuses himself for a smoke. The concerned Maria checks up on the doctor, leaving the children alone, so she fails to notice that Dasha's anesthesia mask has moved by itself. The girl awakens and runs around with the ghost to look for her mom. Just as Dasha spots her, Nina charges at Cranston and relentlessly attacks him, ending his life. The mistress of the house releases Rain and commands it to attack intruders. The dog complies as it takes the life of one of the guests while Nina deals with the other. Keller retreats, but the woman pounces at him. The surgeon apologizes sincerely about Dasha, but the mother's wrath ends him. Dr. Gorbinski prepares to leave and Carl discovers his guests' bodies. Nina soon takes care of Buchanan and Dr. Gorbinski. She enters the operating room and finds her daughter gone. Maria attacks her with a medical saw, and the mother counters her with all her might. With firm determination, Nina finally wins against the maid and hurriedly looks for Dasha. The stimulant's effect wears off and she slumps on the stairs. Carl spots her and announces that her heart will explode. Nina crawls away from him while the husband slowly approaches with a katana as he expresses how disappointed he is for believing that his wife truly loves him. He angrily accuses the woman of trying to harm his son. Dasha interrupts them with a shotgun pointed at her stepfather. Nina instructs her to run and Carl persuades the girl to help Tyler. The mother notices the pulley lamp while her husband convinces her daughter to surrender the weapon. Dasha pulls the trigger, but the safety is on, so Carl snickers before charging toward the girl. Nina finds the perfect time to hit the pulley, and the giant lamp drops on Carl. Dasha rushes to her mom and they hug each other in relief. Meanwhile, the ghost of Tyler's mom stands by her son as the power shuts down, making his respirator stop. Police arrive soon at the mansion just as the sun shines after the storm.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.